Hello, my name is Benjamin Bedoa, and in this speech I'm going to attempt to convince you of why I believe the Electoral College needs to be changed. This is the most important presidential election in recent history. It is a phrase that we seem to hear every election cycle. We can all agree that it is vital that our elections are fair and democratic, but I would argue that our current system falls short of that goal. For a brief primer for those who might not be aware, the Electoral College is the 538 votes cast every 4 years to determine the next President of the United States of America. Each of the 50 states and the District of Columbia start with 2 electoral votes regardless of their population. The remaining votes are distributed to the states proportionally based on their populations. Whichever candidate receives the most votes in a state, whether that's 55 or 85%, receives all of that state's electoral votes. Whichever candidate receives a 270 vote or greater majority earns the presidency for the next 4 years. I believe I'm qualified to speak on this topic because, as a fervent supporter of democracy, I've studied the merits of numerous democratic systems across the world. And while I think that there certainly are some benefits to the U.S. system, I believe that the many downsides outweigh those. I believe that the Electoral College is deeply flawed and undemocratic because of the increased weight given to voters from less populous states, the tendency to elect presidents without the approval of the majority of voters, and the massive importance placed on swing states to the detriment of all others. Starting with the first topic, which may be most relevant to us Californians here, that residents of smaller states get a larger voting power. Because each state starts with 2 votes, regardless of their population, smaller states with less population tend to get a larger number of electors than their population would suggest. As an extreme example of this, residents of Wyoming have their votes count almost 4 times as much as those of California residents. This is because Wyoming has 3.7 times as many electors per million residents as California does, at about 5.5 per million versus 1.5 per million. Put another way, the states of Wyoming, Vermont, North and South Dakota, Alaska, Delaware, Montana, Rhode Island, Hawaii, Maine, New Hampshire, Idaho, Nebraska, West Virginia, and New Mexico collectively have just 1 more vote than California in the Electoral College, despite having less than half of the population. I think in any democratic system, the idea that one person's vote can matter 4 times as much as another just because of where they live is deeply at odds with the idea of democracy in general. Moving on to the next point, is that presidents can and often do win with a majority of the population opposing them. 5 times in recent history, a president has won the presidency without winning the popular vote. This has occurred in 1824, 1876, 1888, 2000, and most recently in 2016. This is an error rate of 5 out of 59 elections, or about 1 in 12. Imagine during the end of the Super Bowl, there was a 1 in 12 chance that the team who scored the least points still won the presidency. I don't think anyone would accept that, and I would argue that the U.S. presidential election is much more important than the Super Bowl. The president can technically win with less than 25% of the vote by winning a bunch of small states with 51% of the vote. While this is incredibly unlikely, the fact that this can happen at all shows that the system has some flaws to be worked out. While some believe that the Electoral College forces candidates to focus on small states as well, in reality it only forces them to focus on the highly contested swing states. The vast majority of advertising, campaigning, and rallying over the last several years in elections has focused not on small states or on large states, but only on the swing states. 204 of the 212 rallies during the 2020 presidential campaign occurred in just 12 states. While California and New York, with their combined 60 million residents, received no rallies from either candidate, Pennsylvania received far more than its fair share, with a massive 47 rallies from major candidates. Populous states such as California and New York, as well as small states such as Wyoming and Alaska, received very little attention from candidates because of the large margins the leading parties poll within those states, combined with the winner-take-all method of applying state electoral votes. This means that any state without close margins can be safely ignored because a 99% margin matters just as much as a 50% margin. This has led to situations where candidates are not fighting for the hearts and minds of the nation, but only for those belonging to a handful of swing states. I think that this is deeply at odds with America's vision of being a land of equals, when most of the states are ignored in the election. In conclusion, I believe that I have demonstrated here many of the flaws of the Electoral College. While I do believe that working to preserve the power of smaller and rural states is a valiant goal, I believe that our current system is only doing them a disservice and weakening their power. I believe that the best way forward from here would be either to amend the Electoral College so that individual states aren't winner-take-all, or remove the Electoral College entirely in favor of a national popular vote. While I believe that this may be unlikely to happen soon, we have been getting closer and steps are being taken, and there's much more research that you all can do on your own. There are many other smaller reasons why I believe the Electoral College is flawed, but these are much more minor and aren't really worth bringing up here. In any case, thank you for your time.